Hello, class. So I got a question, an email actually, with a series of images. When one of your classmates is working on assignment 8, the colorize a photo, and it's a question asking which image to use, and there are actually a handful of images here. So I'm just going to take a look at all of them and take a guess at which one would be a good one to start with. Just a moment. Let's load these in. So the first things first, we want to make sure that they meet at least the minimum requirement of 150 pixels per inch, 4 by 6 inches. If it's bigger than that, it can always be cropped down, resized, whatever. But yeah, let's make sure that they meet it. This is a nice one. Let's check the image size, and like toss this on inches real quick. It looks massive, but if we turn off resample and resize it to 150, it becomes quite a bit smaller. I don't think small enough, no bigger than 11 by 8.5, but we can crank it all the way up to 300. And there we go. That meets the minimum requirement. It's no smaller than 4 by 6, no bigger than 8.5 by 11. It's well within those sizes. So this one is a fine candidate size-wise. Let's take a look at what it could be like with some black and white. So I'm going to bring the black and white adjustment layer, and I'm just going to do some on-screen adjustment. Keep in mind, white doesn't work well for this assignment. There's nothing to stick on, so it's important to kind of play with that. So a heads up, these blurry bits in the background, I know for a fact will be very difficult to recolor. So I would actually shy away from this image just for that. But if you're up for a challenge, then yeah, that would be a good way to go. I'd probably do a curves adjustment layer on top of this. Yeah, and sure enough, notice all of these dead pixels over here, this flat line. Going to alt drag, I can get way in. I don't want to clip to white because again, nothing's going to stick to that when it goes to recolor. I can clip to black, nothing will stick to that, but it won't look out of place if you just have some dark in there. So this one could work fine. This would be the one that I would use for black and white. So Control-Alt-Shift-E, and there you go. But again, it'll be tricky to colorize those the blurred areas. This is actually another good image. This is again a blurry area, but there's less blur, so you could just kind of color it. The hand though is always going to be problematic. It's very orange, so you could rematch something like that, but skin tones are difficult. That said, let's check to see if it meets the image requirements. I'm just going to go to image size, and I have resample off, so it won't create new pixels. It will just resample, reinterpret them. 300 will work. It kicks it to 4 by 6, so size-wise, this is perfect. Let's go ahead and do a black and white on this one, just to see what we've got. This one actually might work quite nicely. Again, watch out for these super brights. That can become a problem pretty quickly. So I'm going to go with something just a little bit darker. I think that there's less. This blurry bit will be a little tricky. The hand's going to be the really tricky bit here. But other than that, I think this one would probably go pretty well. Again, you could hit this up with something like a curves adjustment layer, and you can see that I can bring this in quite a bit in order to increase the tonal range. Sorry, increase the tonal range. Increase the dynamic tonal range would be a more appropriate way to say that. In other words, the darkest darks are quite dark, the lightest lights are quite light. And I may actually put a slight S curve, as you all know, one of my favorite curves. And so there's not too much here to paint on. These dark areas won't paint very well, so it may not be all that interesting. So let's see what else are in here. Oh, this one, again, this would be a lot of work. There's so many little pieces to this. I would, even though this one would be difficult, it would still be less work than this image. There are many blurred pieces in here. Those are tricky to paint. All these small petals would need to be painted. But let's check the image size real quick to see how this would be. Again, I'm just going to crank it way up. Yeah, 300, it meets the 4 by 6 requirement. So this one is in the clear. It's above the minimum. So we've got that. All right, let's start with some black and white on this. And again, I'm just going to do that by doing, actually, should I start with black and white? I believe I should actually be assigning the color profile. So sorry about that. That would be image. I might as well do it first. Sorry, that'd be edit, assign profile, and I believe we were using the sRGB. Double check that. Yep, tell it okay. sRGB IEC 6, 1966 version 2.1. All right, shouldn't see a change because that's what my Photoshop defaults to. So, all right, and let's do a black and white adjustment to this. Black and white adjustment to this, I say. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to again do some on-screen adjustments. Yeah, this one I would not do this one. You see these weird almost plastic wrap effects going on here. That kind of filtering effect that's happening from the gradients that we're seeing from the colors. See here how it's like blue and all that. Once we reduce it to black and white, depending on how we set it, it becomes like very strange. So you'd have to come in here and try to correct them all. So you'd go into all these areas. Oh, I got lucky. That actually is a lot better. Go into all these areas and darken up some parts and lighten up other parts until you finally get rid of those weird blurs. But honestly, I'd say, given that we've got more photos to look at, and we're in the pick a photo phase, I wouldn't do this one. It wouldn't be worth your time. Well, unless you really, really wanted to. I mean, we're getting closer. You just keep picking at it. But given that there are other photos and the question is which one to do, not this one. If you really want to challenge, I mean, sure. You'd see how I keep having to adjust things back and forth, and I'm not even concentrating yet on the centerpiece. I would rather be concentrating on the centerpiece, but I'm going to have to hit that up using curves later because that's better. But there's still some problem areas. The bottom looks okay. This is looking okay. It's pretty much just down to that. I'm going to leave it for just a moment and take a look at what I've gotten over in curves. Ooh. I could bloom it all out, but that's just going to be pure white. Nothing's going to stick to that. There we go. Yeah, I would not recommend this image. This is the first one I truly would not recommend. The many cherry blossoms, don't do that one. Hand holding, again, like if you're up for a challenge on skin tone, the rest of this image is perfect. That skin tone's going to be a pain. You're going to want to build stuff up slowly with yellows and reds and even blues in some areas. See these little green outlines? It's going to be a pain. I'm not going to lie. But that said, it's actually a pretty straightforward image. Let's do an image size. Let's see if it meets the requirements. For real quick, crank this up to 300, meets 4:6 minimum. It's good to go. Again, I have resample off, so it's not generating new pixels. It's simply rearranging them so that they fit. It's reinterpreting them. All right, so assign color profile real quick. Assign color profile, IE6. Okay, IEC6. All right, so I've got that in. I'm going to go ahead and go to black and white. Oh, immediately. Yeah, this one's actually really promising. So I wouldn't recommend the cherry blossoms. If you're going to do something with a hand, do this one. I think that there's a lot more interesting things to do in this. So more of a tonal range to play with. Yeah, the arm will be tricky, but honestly, I think overall this would be a better image than, say, this one or this one. So far that's the winner. Single cherry blossom, the only tricky bit would be the background. If you want to do something a little abstract, then this would be the one to go with. If you want more of a challenge, the hand is definitely a way to go there. We've got these blue shoes. What do we have left? Blue shoes and looks like Range Rover are the last two. Yeah, these would be great, I bet. Let's take a look if it meets the size requirement. I'm going to go to image size. Again, just pop this up, 300 resamples off. That's it's too small height-wise, so I'm going to crank this down. At 150, I believe that meets about the requirements. 5.5 by 11. So I'm going to tell it okay, and I'm going to do this. Grab my crop tool, and then on this drop down, I can set it to a specific width height and pixels per inch. So go ahead and crank in. Do I want pixels? I just really want, yeah, pixels per inch. Can I just do 8.5 by 11? Or is it 11 by 8.5? You know what? Let's just do it this way. Since I don't want to try to guess which one's height and which one's width, I think it's one way or the other. I'm just going to grab a selection. And on my selection, I could do a fixed size, and immediately this thing has the correct numbers on here. So I'm going to switch this out. Yeah, I can't unlock, blah, blah, blah. Click the wrong button. Just highlight all this. I like how everything is labeled in here. I'm going to delete all this out. And width will be 8.5, IN for inches, and height will be 11, nothing for inches, and put IN for inches. All right, so once I've done that, now when I click, I have, it's 8.5 by 11. So I'm just going to crop it down by clicking and then going to image, crop. Okay, so now I know it meets the required sizes. If I go to image size, we've got 8.5 by 11. Okay, so deselect, Control D. Let's go ahead and set the, so I don't forget, I'm going to set the profile by going to assign profile, sRGB, okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a black and white adjustment layer. Black and white adjustment layer, where are you? Here you are, black and white adjustment layer. I've lost way too much contrast in this, so time to click and drag. Ooh, yeah, I think this would work like really well. Careful not to go too dark there. A lot of background stuff, you'd want to fill that up with something, so that'd take a little bit. You need to do a little bit of masking, but you know what? I think this one is the best one. Second best if you want to challenge for the skin. That's going to be an absolutely phenomenal one. In fact, if I were to just go in and add a new layer and grab, I don't know, this red just as an example, and paint over. Let's just try some color modes. Now, again, this is like a 100% red, so it's going to look terrible, but this is just to get a quick idea of what's going on. Looks like stuff is sticking really easily to this. I'm able to recolor it. I think that this one's definitely high up on my list of possibilities. You can run curves on this if you felt you needed it. Looks like there's not too much data loss, so maybe something like that just to darken the background a little bit. There you go, something like that. That way you've got more to work with. So you just do a slow build up at this point by grabbing a layer, coming in. Let's say we did want to make it red. I'm going to set this to maybe overlay for this midtone. It tends to work well for midtones. I'm going to grab my brush. It doesn't want to grab my brush. Grab my brush. There we go. Shrink this down. Probably I'd mask this off in a minute. I'm going to set it not to 100%. I'm just going to set it to like 5%. And then I could start building up. And you notice that it's got weird hard edges places. That's okay. As I start building up and getting everything where I want it, once I'm a little bit in place, I can go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and kind of smush everything together. All right, so now I'm going to just pick a softer brush and maybe a darker color, maybe more of a brown. And look at that, just immediately it starts to work out really well. So like I was saying though, you're going to want to mask this off, and we need to go in and do the highlights probably on a maybe a lightning layer. So I'd add in another layer here and do something like screen and grab a lighter color. So where there are highlights now on this, 50% opacity is way too high. Ready to go 0.5. Where there's a highlight on it, I'm just going to paint. So see these highlights? Just paint in those highlights, paint in those highlights, paint in those highlights. You can see it's starting to come forward. And you can pick any color you wanted. I just thought that the browns would be good. All right, so I was mentioning a mask that I'd recommend doing. I'm just going to grab the magic wand tool, and sure enough, a couple of clicks with shift to move in gets a rough but doable mask. If I switch out to the quick select wand, hold down the Alt key. Oh, a little too much. Alt key to subtract. Wow, the tolerance is way too high on that. So another thing you can do Let's come in. I haven't shown you how to use the pen tool yet, but magnetic lasso tool would be really appropriate with this. Look at that stick on there. Okay, easy enough. So basically I would slowly mask out the whole shoe. Then once I've got the whole shoe, I would apply that mask boom over here. I'm holding down the Alt key so that it masks out everything outside the shoe. Do that on both of these. Hold Alt key, click. All right, I missed Control, so I get my selection back. Hold down Alt key, click, and you can see the zoom tool. You can see at the edges how easily that pulled it in. Still have to do it over there. You have to do the whole box as well, but basically mask it, build up with small percentage, use maybe overlay for the midtones, screen for the highlights. But there's one more image. But I'm really liking these shoes. I think these shoes would be a great way to show off your skills, build things up, learn how to do it, and not have too many problems. All right, yeah, this Land Rover would be pretty good too. Let's go ahead. It's got nice hard edges, so that'll be easy. The plants will be tricky. You know what? It's got way more details in it. The plants are going to be a pain. You're going to hate that. But let's check the image size. Image size. Let's crank this up. 150 is the minimum. 300 is the max. 300 will fit the 4 by 5 inches. Again, I'm not resampling, so that'll work. I'm going to do curves first this time because this is a little washed out. You know what? Actually, when you see something washed out, what's something that you can do? That's right. You can make a dummy layer. I like to use brightness contrast and set it to overlay. Oh yeah, that helps a lot, but it's now overburned. I don't want that. 33% is about an f-stop. I think that's a big improvement. Might be a little ham-handed, but let's start there. And now I will make a black-white adjustment layer, wherever you are, black and white adjustment layer. And I could come in and adjust it. There's a lot of flat surfaces. This would work fine. The green stuff in there, I think, is going to just be a pain in the butt. But if you want to do it, I'll lighten those up. If you want to do it, you can do it. The white area is also going to be a problem. I'd probably use like a cream color or something on that. It's coming up on 20 minutes, so make this last bit a little quick. I just come in. Let's say that you wanted to make this, like I was saying, a cream color. It's going to be tricky. I'm going to come in with zoom in, come in with a magnetic lasso tool. Kind of, I'm doing a terrible job right now, but you get the idea, right? A polygon lasso would have worked better here. So you mask out the area, essentially. I'm just going to use the selection to do that. Coming in, I'm just painting at 5% opacity real fast. I don't even have it in a blur mode, layer blending mode. There we go. So you can see it's becoming duller and duller the more I paint. But once I have a little bit in there, let's see how it looks on multiply, which will stick to the lights pretty well. Looks pretty good. That would be the approach that. All right, so yeah, and then just kind of work up from there. What if you want like a green truck? I don't know. You could totally build this up. This metal will be good. The lights will be a little tricky. You'd want to do something like a couple of lightning modes on top of this to get that up. The real problem areas I think are the plants. It'll take you a while to get the plants in there. Just a lot of details. So my advice is this. Blue shoes would be the one I'd pick. I think you could spend a lot of time on it. It will look better and better the longer you work on it. But if you run out of time, the first couple of passes, you'll have a great result. So you'll be good to go. Second choice, this hand. If you want to challenge, you've got all of these oranges inside of the hand. You'll want to bring open the original image and keep sampling colors from it so that you can learn from it. So maybe put those side by side. Brush. Wow, it does not like me today. All right, brush. Click. So you can get these beautiful oranges and you can start building those up. Make a new layer here above the black and white, so it will work. I'll just set it to multiply real quick and a low opacity. And again, you'll have to use lots and lots of masks. You can see you can start to slowly bring in skin tones. And so, whoops, I flip around to an empty one. Let's grab that. Make it a little darker. And you can start to bring that in. So again, masks so you don't paint skin tones into the background, all that stuff. And then you'd want to paint in all of these beautiful leaves. So you can make them any color you want. You could have a lot of fun, maybe have rainbow colors going in. This would be the second fastest one to do. Challenge would be in the hand. And then if you want to spend a lot of time on it, Range Rover, and it's mostly going to be because of the tires and the plants. Now, anywhere where you see these light colors, like in this hubcap, you'd probably want to hit it up with a multiply so it will stick, like in here. And go over it slowly, just a few percent at a time to build up. Okay, so that's my advice on the approach from there. I've got some more emails I need to look through, but hopefully this is helpful. If you've already done this assignment, I hope that there's still something here that you can look at and go, oh yeah, that's a pretty interesting idea. All right, if you have any questions, as always, please email me, and I will be happy to record a short video on them and post it up to the forums. Okay, you all have a good one. I'll see you on the flip side.